Bisco's Polo chance drop from us being reduced. Lol. Okay. So they kill Bisco's. Okay. Before we get into it, just briefly, my predictions. I think Vol Power Siphon, some Spectre nerfs. Chat thinks some Sunder, some Glacial Cascade nerfs. I would like, but don't think there'll be Bisco's nerf, we would just prove wrong. Sextants, EK, S-Shield, Spider Learning Headhunter, Bright Peak movement skills. Things I think should be buffed but won't be buffed. Boss Loot ignites, Ascendancy, Pantheon, traps, one node behind CI. Let's go. Major features. A mysterious entity known as the Elder haunts the Atlas of Worlds, spreading decay and battling the Shaper for control. For more information, check out the thing. Cool. 32 new maps we know about. Added new boss fights with the Elder and his 4 guardians. Cool. Introduced Shaper and Elder items. We know about those. They give us like 6 links and stuff. Added a new quest, the Queen of the Sands. This quest can be obtained by talking to Pteris and Vanja in Act 9 after completing the prerequisite quest, the Stormblade. The Book of Skill quest reward for completing the Stormblade has been moved to the Queen of the Sands. The Stormblade now rewards players with the choice of several rare weapons. Sure. 48 new unique cards. Unique items. Cool. 6 new div cards. Cool. Unearth, Cremation we know about. Body Swap we know. Volatile Dead we know. Vulnerability and Despair, they've separated the two, we know about that. Storm Barrier we know. Volley we know. Sparkle Cascade. Mirage Archer we know, but I don't know the full info. Hitting an enemy with a spotted bow. Okay, we knew that already. Added 3D art for Malachi's Mark, Dayligh's Malefiction, Dendrobates, Heltless, Void Battery, Red Blade Tramplers, and Lightning Coil. Added a new unique strongbox designed by one of our supporters. Added a new Rogue XL based on the win of the best dressed. Cool. Abyss Challenge League. Challenge Leagues are a great opportunity for a fresh start in a new economy. All of your old characters and items are still present in the standard and hardcore leagues, but you're encouraged to join the new leagues. Cool. With 3.1, there are standard hardcore variations of Abyss League, as well as the SSF variants of both. They have the same core mechanics and items. In the Abyss League, players will encounter cracks in the ground, get too close, and these cracks widen and spread, allowing terrible monsters to climb from their inky depths. We knew about all of this. Take too long and the abyss will seal shut, but if you're quick and deadly enough, a chest filled with valuable rewards will emerge from below. Okay, we knew all of that. As players progress through the Abyss League, some pits may offer access to the abyssal depths. These abyssal depths are packed with monstrous creatures and valuable rewards, and culminate in exciting boss encounters, like a Lich. We've seen that. Okay. Exploring the abyssal depths in high-level areas might result in an encounter with a Lich boss. Spoilers. These difficult boss fights are quite rare, but very rewarding. Defeating a Lich is the only way to earn an exclusive Abyss unique item. Is the only way to earn an exclusive... Okay. Monsters and chests from the Abyss can drop Abyss jewels. So those come from the chests and the monsters, but the uniques come just from the Lich. These can be placed in sockets in your passive tree to grant powerful bonuses. Unlike other jewels, they have a set of exclusive new properties and can also be placed in abyssal sockets on your items. Those are from the abyssal unique items from the Liches. These sockets can be found on the new Abyss uniques and a new base type of Abyss socketed belt, the Stygian Vise. 40 new challenges, we know about that. Helm, Wings, Portal, we know about that. Okay, so that we all know. Minor features. The targeting behavior of many skills has been improved, especially against large targets such as Katava and Arakali. Updated the item frames to fit the current user interface. Updated the stash chest model, so new, so shiny. The tutorial has been slightly adjusted to better direct players having trouble very early on. Added a tutorial element for using portal scrolls. Okay, tutorial for Lino's Watch. Can help on help, cool. Nothing important. You can now turn in div cards at Navali. That's very, very nice. The Forsaken Masters have moved back to Oriath. It can now be found in the Epilogue Town. Sure, that's fine. An effect is now played on corpses which disappear due to hitting the corpse creation limit for skills. Wait, what? An effect is now played on corpses which disappear due to hitting the corpse creation limits for skills. Cool. Values for ailments, such as shock and chill effectiveness, can be viewed. Good. Added a system for scaling the visual effects of ailments based on the size of the monster. Added a system for scaling the visual effects of ailments based on the size of the monster, okay? Added a voice acting for any NPCs and story glyphs, which were missing when they were added in Fall of Orioth. Added images to the map pin hovers for areas, cool. Added an option to leave your current party, cool. The league selected is now saved, that's quality of life. Improved the quest reward selection interface. Added a timer below each flask icon, which, while the flask is active, displays the remaining duration of the flask. Huge. Debuffs are now displayed on a separate line to buffs, flask effects, and charges. Rise can make it past level 2 now. PogChamp. Auras you have activated that are affecting you are no longer displayed in the buff bar, as the skill icon shows which auras are active. Auras from other sources still appear in the buff bar. Cool, I like that. Skills with modified cooldowns now show their final... This is so nice. This is actually really huge. Monsters will now show their rarity as they're emerging. I don't know what that means, but alright. The challenge tab... Monsters will now show their rarity as they're emerging. Does anyone know what that means? I don't know. Anyway, sure. The challenges tab now displays the number of challenges we've completed at the top. Cool. The default minimum for dynamic resolution scaling is now set to 30 frames per second. You can change this in the options. Improve the effects for monster rarities and ailments. Added support for subsurface scattering. Check out the ice and candles. Optimize a lot of skills, areas, monsters, and effects. Continue to incrementally improve the sound, art effects, and environments. Cool. Intimidate now causes enemies to take 10% increased attack damage. So this is a huge nerf to Belt of the Deceiver. Huge nerf. So Intimidate now only buffs attack-based builds, no longer affects spells. Huge. Existing vulnerability, we know about that with Despair. Cool. Your minions and their minions will no longer deal or take damage while you are dead. Huge nerf to softcore Golemonsters. So they just killed Golemonsters. Cool. Dark Pact no longer gains bonus radius while using your life. We knew about this. Detonate Dead now deals spell damage based on the level of the skill gem, in addition to damage based on the corpse's maximum life. This is huge. It didn't used to scale with spell damage, so Detonate Dead now scales with spell damage. This is very, very big. The base fire damage dealt by the spell part of the explosion has been significantly increased. The skill now gains additional AoE as it levels, and its base critical chance has been increased from 5 to 6. The cast time has been lowered. So they've basically buffed everything. It does more damage, it scales with spell damage, it has more AoE, it has more crit, and it's cast faster. Cool. Raised Spectre now grants additional accuracy to Spectres based on level of the gem. This is pretty huge. Bear Trap and Vile Rain of Arrows now remove all movement speed, as opposed to reducing it by 300%. Bear Trap and Vile Rain of Arrows now remove all movement speed, as opposed to reducing it by 300%. What does that mean? Does that mean that you just would move at 0% rather than getting rooted? Because you just can't move anyway with Bear Trap and Vile Rain of Arrows. Because they rooted you before. You were able to move with... Oh, right. If you had enough movement speed before, you could. Okay, that makes sense. So now it just always roots. Okay. Okay. Before, if you had above 300% movement speed, you could. Okay, that makes sense. Raging Spirits now have a 15% less added damage multiplier, up from 30%. Wait, what? Raging Spirits now have a 15% less added damage multiplier, up from 30%. What? They used to be 30%. Now it's 15. Okay. It's a buff. They've buffed it by 15%. Yeah. Summon Skellies now have a 50% more added damage multiplier, up from 30. Cool. So yeah, it used to be minus 30, now it's minus 15. Okay, cool. Raging Spirit spiders grow from Alakari's Fang, and the Spirit Skulls from Essence of Insanity can no longer taunt their enemies. Cool. The amount of burning damage dealt by the burning ground created by a burning arrow on a character with a pitch darkness threshold jewel is now determined by the level of the burning arrow skill gem. This doesn't do anything. No one was using that before. Okay. Orb of Storms can now trigger lightning strikes from channeled skills. So this is for the buffed lightning tendrils. Okay. Cool. Desecrate now creates 5 corpses up from 3. The cooldown has been reduced to 3 seconds, down from 5. And the cast time. So they basically just buffed everything. Desecrate's maximum corpse level now grows more steadily as the skill gem levels up. It can now create higher level corpses at most levels except level 19, in which the maximum corpse level has been lowered from 100 to 81. Wow. Okay. Lightning Tendril has been reworked. We knew about that before. Okay. Has received a visual overhaul. The new version hits slightly less frequently than previous, but substantially high damage overall. Okay. Minion life sort now affects minion life multiplicatively. Okay, cool. Dark Pact now counts as being a minion skill gem, and there was interactive effects such as one found on click on Tamwas. Okay. Ruthless can no longer support channeled skills. Big nerf to Blade Flurry and Cyclone. Iron Wall can now support summon Skellies if you are some Skelly Mages build. Arctic Armor's shielding effect now slows by 30% when you're hit, up from 10%. That's a buff. Melee attacks ordered by Mulstrike now more accurately take attack range. This has negatively impacted some skills and positively impacted others, but in general, melee skills affected by Mulstrike will target monsters that benefit the behavior of the attack. Okay. Bladefall's AoE was wider than intended close to the caster. The AoE now better matches the area the blades visually land. The width of Bladefall area has been increased slightly to compensate for the now narrower earlier stages. So it used to be more like this. Now it's more like this. So it used to like be a larger cone at your character, but they've thinned it out so it matches the visual, and they've buffed it slightly. Okay. Stormburst is now correctly modified. Stormburst is now correctly modified by factors based on the state of the projectile, such as powerful precisions. Okay, but they haven't buffed Stormburst damage, so Stormburst is still bad. Charge Dash is now limited to a maximum of 15 strikes per skill use. So it's still bad. Static Strike's radius has increased from 19 to 20, bringing its total radius to 24. Static Strike's Static Strike's exposure now correctly applies elements with 40% less effect. It was previously applying elements without taking less. So they've done nothing. So for anyone who doesn't know the context of this, I tried to make a Static Strike build. I think I'm probably the only person who tried to make Static Strike in 3.0. I think this one line was for me. They've nerfed Static Strike's ailments. So they've nerfed its shock, for example. And its poison. They've given it one area, which is nothing. They've done nothing. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Ice Crash's radius has been increased from 8 to 9 for the first stage, 16 to 18 for the second stage, and 24 to 26 for the third stage. It's slightly something. Okay. Earthquake's radius has been increased from 25 to 28. It's slightly something. Reeve's radius has been increased from 17 to 20, bringing up to 24 at level 20. Wither now increases chaos damage taken by 6%, down from 7%, stacks up to 15 times, down from 20. Val Power Siphon's radius has been reduced to 70 units, down from 120. So for the record, for my predictions, I predicted some Val Power Siphon and some Spectre nerfs. They nerf Val Power Siphon. They technically nerf Spectres, but also technically buff them with the accuracy thing. So I think I was pretty correct on that. Chat thought they'd nerf Sundering Glacial Cascade. They nerfed neither. So for the record, Tarke is yes. Chat is no. Cool. Item balance. Div cards. The location, drop rates, and requirements for many div cards has been reworked, in part due to the changes to the Atlas in this patch, and in part to better integrate div cards into areas introduced in the fall of Arioth. Cool. Life regen mods have been slightly renamed and reordered as 2 higher tiers have been added, so life regen is slightly better now. Life regen mods on rare items have been buffed across the board, with the existing highest tier mod now grinding up to 20 life per second. Doesn't really do anything, okay. The Desecrate limit is the nerf to Spectres. The Desecrate limit is actually pretty big. So Desecrate, you can now only get level 81 rather than level 100. So unless you can do crazy shit, somehow, they've nerfed how strong of Spectres you can get. So they nerf Spectres, their level of Spectres, and they nerf our Power Siphon. So Tarke has 100% prediction accuracy. PogChamp. When used on a belt, Essence of Insanity now grants 10% movement speed during a flask, up from 5. Sure. Seems a weird thing to change. Think you can still get it, but only at level 20? Is it only at 20 or only at level 19? Level 20 still gives. Okay. So, not really a nerf then. It's a slight nerf, but not really. So, I was still technically right. Level 20 rate should still be 100. Okay. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take it. I was nearly right, but not really right. 90% sure they wouldn't do anything basically. I said they should, but I didn't think they would. Anyway, still has a good stretch. Atlas-only item base types can no longer be found in Volside areas, but they haven't said anything about master missions. So you can still get, like, Opal Rings and Torah Dens. Seems weird they would change one, but not both. Maybe they did mean to do both, but only included one. But you can also get them in master missions. Seems kind of weird. It's Xeri's Acuity. No longer instantly knew about that. But yes, it now just gives you Val Pact on crit, if you've crit recently. Cool. Witchfire Brew now creates a Despair Curse error on use. We knew about this. Doomfletch we knew. I think it's not that deep, but it is a pretty sizable nerf. I think Elemental Overlay Doomfletch builds will be good. And I think Crit Doomfletch builds will still be good, they'll just be less consistent. Kongming's Stratagem no longer creates a smoke cloud when a socketed trap is triggered. Instead grants Fog of War skill, which creates a smoke cloud when any of your traps are triggered. This skill has a cooldown. Wait, what? Grants Fog of War skill, which creates a smoke cloud when any of your traps are triggered. They've done nothing. Cool. Lion's Roar now only grants knockback to melee attacks during blast effects. Does nothing. Lycoste's chance to drop from us has been greatly reduced. This item was being used. So they've made it more expensive. That's good. Yeah, I agree with that. It's too cheap. Bisco's Collar's chance to drop from us has been greatly reduced. Good, I agree. They haven't actually nerfed the item. They've just made it rarer. I agree. It's good. Queen of the Forest we knew about. This is a slight nerf to the average mapping build. Using Queen of the Forest since it's lost a bunch of base evasion, but this is mostly just a nerf for Queen of the Forest lab runners. Most users will just see a slight nerf to their movement speed. Not that big. Rise of the Phoenix is a interesting nerf. It now has some life on it. It has 3% less max fire res. This maybe opens up more options. Ice Shot now pierces 3 targets down from 5. Yeah, I agree with that. 5 was a lot. It's still really good at 3. This is fine. It was mostly only really used by Curse on Hit builds and people who went Ice Shot. A lot of them still went Chain and Fork. So this is fine. Doesn't really do anything. Whatever. Dancing Dervish. While Manifest Dancing Dervish is active, the Dancing Dervish now has a 25% chance to grant your Rampage skill when it hits unique enemy the minion created by this unique enemy. I think this will stop people from weapon swapping into it to cheat Rampage. I think. Cool. Pandemonium has been buffed. Cool. The Baron now adds half of your strengths to your minions. So that's a pretty big nerf. That's, yeah, okay. Dead Reckoning now correctly places a number of Scaly Scaly Mages and using Vast Summon Scaly, okay. Death's Oath now probably up this way with items. Cool. Clarified that freeze duration not effective based on any shield. So, cool. So, from this, they made Biscos rarer but didn't nerf Biscos. So I was kind of still right. They didn't nerf Sextants. Didn't nerf S-Shield, Inspired Learning, Headhunter, or Brightbeak. Surprised S-Shield made it through again. They just straight killed Baron, which seems weird to me. Because they've buffed SRS, and Baron's mostly for, like, SRS. The zombie Baron build was, like, you could do it, but zombies have terrible AI, so it's mostly just an SRS thing. So they buffed SRS across the board, and then made the Baron Helm, which was really rare, just, like, gutted. Really weird change, in my opinion. I would have just made it rarer. 50% is huge. Huge. Anyway, whatever. Still a good item, but it's huge. New monster balance. Okay. Newer, more difficult versions of the parasites found through Act 6 and Act 7. That's good. Kitava-fed versions of the blackguards found throughout Act 5. Kitava-fed versions of the blackguards throughout Act 5. So, Act 6 and Act 7 is harder. Good. Kitava-fed versions. Is it just new visuals, or have they made Act 5 spoopier? It was to nerf Skelly Mages. That seems very strange. But whatever. Number of monsters found in areas throughout the campaign has been adjusted, and the number of monsters found throughout the game should be more consistent across multiple instances. This particularly affects old fields, Var runes, sewers, marketplace, battlefront. So they've messed with density, made it more consistent. Cool. The following unique monsters are no longer immune to freeze instead of a minimum action. Shaper, blah 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 blah. So they're no longer immune to freeze. Cool. Monsters with triggered skills based on damage they take can no longer trigger those skills from taking damage over time. Sure. Infested monsters that can spawn parasites when slain now grant increased XP and drops when shattered or exploded. Cool. Shield crabs now give additional XP if they would kill before they do their little... So cool. We basically get more XP for shattering, you know, stage 1 monsters. Crimson Scholars now give additional XP if shattered. Monster mods for Fizz Reflects have been reworked. We know about that. They're now Nemesis mods. This spell's a cooldown. We knew about all of this, but yeah, they've reworked Reflect. The effect trees by Flame Bearers, Frost Bearers, and Storm Bearers now appear more quickly and should be more clearly visible. Cool. The Ryslapha fight, so that's the Chaos Beetle, has been significantly changed. The eggs now explode and create damaging patches on the ground. Ryslapha herself is much more mobile. Before she didn't really move at all, so now she moves. The monster spawned by pods by more difficult parasites. She's now immune to knockback. So they've made one fight more spoopy. Seems kind of weird, but sure. Yeah, alright. Maybe skip this while leveling and just come back to it a bit higher level. This might be kind of OP now, but yeah, whatever. The Lightning Thorn skill. No one deals a flat amount of reflected light dodge attack instead triggers a number of lightning projectiles with a short cooldown. This could potentially be spoopy if it's OP at start, but alright. Okay. Parasite Infesting Hollow skill is now called... Cool, they renamed something. They've now given it Leap Slam. Parasites drop or stay monsters will now match the host rarity. Sure. Riptide now better signals what users do. Don't even know what that is. I think that's a boss. Alright. Captain Artari and Captain Aurelianus can now drop items, just not very many. That's the Act 2 and Act 3 NPC, like, bosses. The one before The Way Forward and the one before Clarissa, I believe. The reason why they did that was before you used to farm them. Because they were right next to waypoints. And it was you were right next to resets and it was OP. But in the current meta, I doubt anyone's going to be farming those for loots. But that used to be a thing back in like old school PoE, back in 2K13. Carrion burrowers are now visually distinct from their surface-dwelling counterparts, so new model, basically. The life and damage of many warband monsters has been adjusted to make them suitable map bosses. The life and damage of many warband monsters has been adjusted to make them more suitable map bosses. Is that a buff or a nerf? Don't really know. The beams in the Avarice Reassembled can have more pattern variations. They also deal less damage, but the damage persists for duration after you've been touched. This is the Act 10 Innocence fight, which is really easy. And it does less damage now. Seems strange, alright. The beams in the Defiler Light of Incantation has been the same treatment. Malagari is sometimes in Act 7 and 9, always poison him on hit, so that makes him a bit spoopier. The Act 7 Malagari is actually kind of scary. He can, if you get hit, it can kind of hurt, so just gotta watch out a bit more now. Sulfuric Striders and Undying Operators can no longer appear in Essence Monoliths. Yeah, I know what that means. Bloodstained Skelly Sound the Blood Quest now have been made slightly more difficult. Effigy of Fear's Crows now deal more damage. Sure. Improve the Atonement counter in Act 8. Tom and the Ankh now use a few extra skills. Cool. Katarina missions which try to find, raise, and kill another monster now use different undeath effects. So Katarina missions are still horrible. Reduce the amount of damage dealt by the Pillars of Carnage Rune Explosion. Can't remember which boss that is, but alright. Something got nerfed slightly. Shab's Ball Lightning in Act 6 and 9 now deals more damage and has a clearer air of effect. This does less damage at close range. Okay, watch out for Shav, basically. Shab's Stormburst in Act 9 now fires additional projectile. It can no longer stun, and it deals less damage to players at close range. That's good, because you could get stun locked. Shav Summoned Books now have more life and deal approximately 35% more damage. That's kind of scary. Kind of watch out for that. Basically, watch out for Shav a little bit. She might be a bit over scary in Act 6. And Kutulale. Death's Worship now deals fizz damage with her Proj Nova. Her Raging Spirits now deal more damage at lower levels. Not sure which one that is, but alright. One of the bosses. Groose Bandit's allies now flee when he dies. Cool. Duedry Spirit is now a little quicker at raising zombies in Act 9. Duedry in Act 9 no longer repeatedly summons a large number of stone pillars. The pillars now die when the encounter ends. Significant portions of the Depraved Trinity encounters have been reworked. In particular, Malagari's Bladefall and Shav's Blade Lightning have undergone large changes. Watch out then. This might be kind of spoopy. The damage of Gitava's X-Blast, Extreme Blast, has been lowered slightly. So it's slightly less extreme. The Bear Acolytes in Act 6 now move more quickly. Brian Crack now has a sweet suit of cracking new skills. This is the silly boss which doesn't do anything in Act 6. Cool. Clockwork Golems will no longer simply flee. Instead, they'll move around you and to you based on different conditions. They do damage. Cool. Reduce the damage dealt by the Harby of Disorder's Holy Mortar and the duration of its Holy Spark. I think that's the boss in Act 5. Cool. The Augmented Dead in Chamber of Sins in Act 7 no longer has a chance of launching a Lightning Soul on death. Sure. The Window Shard monsters in Act 10 now deal more damage, have more life, and resist all ailments, such as cold. The Window Shard monsters. Can't remember which one that. Dawn now can throw a shield and will explode into small projectiles. Dust has a projectile called Carpet Bomb. This is the two mini bosses in Act 8 for these before the Lunaris and Solaris fight. Those are the pink ice golems. Okay. The Window. Yeah. Okay. Plague Wretch and Chamber of Sinners now has some more friends. Sin and Innocence now a little more dynamic during the Act 10 finale. Cool. The Basilisk now has a Stone Gaze ability. If you face each other during this ability, you become petrified. Petrification is similar to freeze, but is removed if you hit a number of times or the duration runs out. That's really scary, because you could get stun locked. Sure, so watch out for that. The Blood-Soaked Fallen in the Blood Aqueduct now explode on deaths and corrupt blood projectiles on directions. Watch out for Blood Aqueduct farming then, you could get one shot. Tukahama's Vanguards no longer summon multiple totems at a time or spectered, and the duration of the totems has been lowered to 5 seconds from 10 seconds. They are less likely to place additional totems while they have at least one totem. Wickerman's Righteous Fire has been lowered while spectered. turns out I was right after all. They've killed spectres. These monsters using in version rights are not intended for spectres and doing significantly more damage than intended as a result. Oof. They got slapped pretty hard. Okay. So I was right. There was actually spectre nerfs. Map balance. The entire atlas has been reworked. Solar guards, yes, solar guards are just best. Solar guards were already pretty good. Now they're definitely the best. The entire atlas has been reworked. Many map names have changed, as have their balance, tier, position, and we knew they've basically reworked the atlas. We knew this. Cool. So solar guards are still OP. Gazi and Uber are just sad. Cool. Solar guard summoners still OP. Do that. It's still good. Still good. Solar guards good. Cool. The rules used to generate monsters in endgame maps has been significantly reworked and rebalanced around the rate at which we expect players to reliably clear out the map. Sure. In general, narrow linear maps will contain fewer total monsters than maps with complex layouts. We're closely monitoring and adjusted the balance of this change and expect to make further changes and improvements over time. Cool. So linear maps, less monsters. Cells, more monsters. Cells, all the mobs. Cool. Map mods have been rebalanced, and every mod now provides increased item rarity, increased item quantity, increased monster pack size, though the magnitudes are dependent on the difficulties of the mod. Cool. Malcon. Monsters no longer gain power and endurance charges every 20 seconds, as this was consistently causing performance problems. These monsters now have a chance to gain these charges on hit. The number of monsters that appear in this map have been reduced, but the area now grants an increased experience gained to compensate. Added a new map prefix, Feasting. Area is inhabited by cultists of Kitava. Kitava mobs are spoopy. More spoopy Kitava mobs is spoopy. Many monsters which appeared in Act 5 through 10 but did not appear in maps have been added to maps. More spectre options possibly. Thanks for the follow. Map bosses which have multiple forms or phases no longer count as multiple map bosses for the sake of achievements and challenges, but there aren't any boss kill challenges as far as I'm aware, so it doesn't matter. Also, they've changed Malcon but not changed Burning Ground, even though they took ground effects off the Xbox for performance. So sure. Sun Caller Ash's Leap Slam has been rebalanced now as a 4-second cooldown. That is the High Gardens boss, I believe, which is kind of spoopy, and the Leap Slam was like instant, so that's kind of cool. Rektar, that's the half orc, half ogre, aka the hunter hero in Hearthstone, can now smack around players who are standing too close to walls. This is a buff to hunters. Cool. Purge hounds can now come out of their gates from further away and will pursue players for longer distances. This is a buff to maps with doggies. Water Ellies and their variants now appear in packs as a mix of visible and hidden monsters. Sure. This will basically make it slightly easier to find them, because before you're like, where the hell are they? Now they'll be like one up. You go, oh, it's over there. You walk, then they all pop up. Cool. The boss of Death and Taxes now moves 35% faster or immune to damage. Cool. Twisted Effigies of Monster Corpse can now be desecrated if you bring one into a map with you. Thank you for the bitties. Rower Map Boss now regain 33% of the max life whenever you break one of their nests. So you just break the nest at the start of the fight, which is what everyone did anyway. That's what I used to do, just break them at the start, who cares. Added a pack of magic monsters to the boss room of maps that were missing them. Cool. Monsters can now appear closer to the entrance in Obelisk class Trove. Hologram unique map is now on the Cemetery base type. Yeah, okay, nothing that crazy. Volpacts. We knew about that. They've reworked Volpacts. No longer grants instant leech. Z doubles to reach your life leech. Has you moved to next duelist leech. The passive skills behind Mind of Man now grant 10% increased, down from 12. Those increased mana down from 40. 40 added from... Fucking wow. They fucked that hard, mate. So they took 4%. So they took 14%. We've lost 14% and 60 flat. That's pretty big. So 14% less mana. And we've lost 60 flat mana. This is a buff to Cloak of the Defiance. Big buff to Cloak of the Defiance. Because a lot of Cloak of the Defiance builds would still want to get Mom anyway. It's now not as significant anymore. That's really huge. But it's also a buff to Cloak of Defiance. It's still good, but that's huge. Hematology Notable. Now grants 3%, down from 5. Vitality Forward is now 3% down from 5. Passive skills which previously granted melee fizz while holding a shield now grant increased fizz attack while holding a shield. Okay. This is a buff to Wanders. And Frostblades. And Specthro. This is basically buffs projectile attacks. Projectile attacks got buffed. Many passive skills, which previously only provided defense burst while using a shield, now also grant increased physical attack damage and damage while ailments while using a shield. So, same thing again. They basically buffed projectile attacks. Remove one of the passives leading to Ash, Frost, and Storm. So this is now a 3-pointer instead of a 4-pointer. That is a buff. Slayer was the only Ascendancy balance change. Kind of sad about that. Pantheon, they've just shuffled stuff around. Was kind of hoping Pantheon would get a little bit more interesting. Pantheon is nearly cool. Nearly. There's like... I hated it when it first got announced. Having played with it for a full like league now, I like some of it, but half of it is still kind of terrible. So it's still pretty boring. Lab changes. Added a new Darktron effect that can only be found in the Eternal Lab. Change the requirements for some chests to appear. In general, chests should feel more rewarding and better suited for their level and difficulty. Increase the total amount of items found on average from silver chests. That's good. The helmet enchants grant additional projectiles barrage. I mean, I've been saying for a long time, as I mostly play bow builds, I'm known as the guy who plays bow builds, I've been saying additional projectiles is overpowered. Tornado Shot somehow snuck through there. Tornado Shot is still good. Tornado Shot was the preferred skill for mappers. Most people map. So this is good. This might make Tornado Shot Helm Enchant more expensive though, which I guess is a nerf. But sure. Surprised nothing else changed for it. Breach is still level 8. No Nemesis. That's a big deal, but let's just read this anyway. Okay. Anarchy, 2C. 3 Rogue Exiles, 20% increased quant. Cool. Bloodlines, 3C. Bloodlines pack. Good for getting maps. Beyond is short. Hasn't changed. Fortune Favors the Brave. Costs 3C. Selects a Zana mod at random from those available from the device, including any you haven't yet unlocked. So, if you want Breach and you haven't got level 8, you can roll this and maybe you'll get Breach. Kinda cool, considering that Bloodlines is good, Beyond is good, Ambush is decent, Essence is good, Breach is good, Domination's kind of bad, and Anarchy's kind of bad. Like, to be fair, this is pretty good. Like, there's only like 1 or 2 bad things. I think this is pretty good. The fact that you can't get Nemesis anymore means that Headhunters will only come from div cards. You can't chance Headhunters anymore. This is a slight nerf to Headhunters, but not really that big. Anarchy gives Valk card. Valk card can give you Headhunter. Yeah, no, like, to be honest, that all of these are fine. Domination, you know, is still good, especially if you're like running the Gull. I really like Fortune Favors the Brave. I like this. No, I like it. I like it. I think the Zana mods are cool. I like this a lot. I was saying that maybe they could have made Breach like a level 4 thing and you had like you had a breach which cost 4C and only gave you 1, and then there was still incentive to get level 8 breach, but this sort of does it. I agree, the lack of ascendancy changes is mind-blowing, like very much mind-blowing. Very surprised we didn't see anything but Slayer changes to ascendancies, especially with the fact they've reworked Reflect, and you've got Elementals just like, yo, you've reworked Reflect, what the fuck, bro? Like, anyway. PvP balance. For the one person who PvPs, this is just for you. Removed the level 60 San Arena variant. Players who do not fit the requirements for the level 40 San area will now be taken to the open San Arena. Characters which have entered the portal to Oriath at the end of Act 4 can no longer join low-level dueling queues. Death's Oath now deals significantly less damage against players and Grandmasters. PvP-only characters can no longer activate the map device. Bleeding, Ignite, and Poison now undergo PvP scaling based on the attack or cast time of the ailment source. For skills with time override, the ailments use that. Okay, so that was PvP. Cool. World changes. Completing the Mercy Mission quest now rewards players with their choice of support gem as well as a flask. This is cool. Hedge Maze has been removed and both Jesus Plume and the Trial of Ascendancy have been moved to the Imperial Gardens. Cool. Story glyphs have been added to all areas without Ray class, but in particular Act 5 to 10. Strange Barrels now contains many more ordinary non-swarming things. The fuel event in the beacon is now more involved. Thank fuck, I hated that quest with a passion. That's the bit where you stand on the shrine and it slowly moves. You now stand on the shrine, it slowly moves at the small monsters. Southern Forest, especially Act 6, has been fleshed out. In the lead up to the Depraved Trinity encounter, the heart entrance to Malagari, Shath, and Doedri's area stop beating you as defeated. Cool. Temple of Stash has been renamed the Sealed Chest. It's got a new model. Hagen no longer discussed with the High Gardens. Cool. Added numerous variations to odd areas. Vols, yeah. Pretty neat, sure. Updated the minimum icons for doors and areas that were missing them. Shrines no longer appeal directly outside Two Government's Fortress. Kataba's Arena in Act 10 is now called the Altar of Hunger. Malachi's General no longer references an incorrect date. Cool. Prophecies. Ramos is able to fill the requirement of unique prophecies has been added to various locations. Blah, 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 blah. No longer trick with... Can have it in your inventory. Sure. Bugs. I'm really lightheaded after reading all of this. Fucking, that's a lot of bugs. Typos. Is there anything interesting? I don't think there is. Sure. We're going to say there's no interesting bugs, because I have a headache from reading all of that. So... From this, there's a Sunder bug. Yeah, I guess I should read the Sunder bug. Fix a bug where enemies hit by Sunder's linear, that's this bit, also unintentionally hit by the air effect that the hit created. So maybe that's a slight Sunder nerf. Where are the promised buffs? They buffed SRS by 15%. Is that it? What did they actually buff? Lightning Tendrils. Raging Spirits. Summon Skelly. Arctic Armor. Static Strike? Fuck off. Static Strike is exactly the same. Ice Crash Earthquake. Reeve. So they buffed a few melee skills. So they buffed a couple of melee skills. The UI update is huge. I really like the UI update. The SRS buff doesn't make sense to me. I think they only buffed it because they killed Baron. Rise is mentioned? Really? You know what you did, Rise? True. The Volpact changes makes builds slightly more interesting for people who played a lot of Volpact. For me personally, I didn't really play much Volpact. So for me personally, the big things which affect me as a player, just me as a player, this isn't me baiting, I'm saying the things which affect me as a player, big, is Mirage Archer is a really cool new skill. I think it's going to be OP. That I'm hype about. I think the UI rework is cool. The fact that they're on different, you know, lines now. I think the mom nerfs are pretty big for me. But I think hybrid is sleeper overpowered. I thought hybrid was sleeper overpowered before the mom nerfs. With the mom nerfs, hybrid is very good. Very, very good. I think Thief's Torment not being nerfed is very good. Because Thief's Torment's sleeper AP. Did they nerf GC Mines? No. They only buffed Glacial Cascade. So I was right. Because nerfing Glacial Cascade to then add a Glacial Cascade Duel was the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard anyone say. So anyone who thought they were going to nerf Glacial Cascade, you're an idiot. It was like there was no way in hell. No way in fucking hell they were going to make that. It was it was so